Hey guys, welcome back to the Minijet YouTube channel. Today we've got a really special project in store where we're going to be assembling one of our brand new Minijet CUB models. Now the build process for this CUB is going to be very similar to an A211 kit, albeit with some optimizations that we've done to improve the time and reduce the cost. But if you're putting together a boat of your own, it'll be very similar to the way that we put the CUB together today. So the first order of business is going to be taking delivery of both the power plant and the hull kit. Those should be coming really soon, so I'll show you some footage of when it gets here and then we'll get to unpacking it and inspecting. All right guys, so here we are. We've got the crates delivered from our cutting and bending supplier. So one of the ways that we keep costs down on the Minijet CUB is by having everything cut and bent in bulk. So this is actually several boats worth of panels that we're going to be unpacking today. We're just going to separate them out, do a little quality control, inspect everything, make sure it looks good. And then we're going to be separating everything out for the different builds that we have coming up in the near future. So let's get to splitting these things open and seeing what's inside. So we've got everything palletized on these two pallets for the two CUBs that are our upcoming builds. I can quickly go through here and show you guys some of the cool features that we do, again, to kind of save some time. And we'll explore these a little bit more when we actually go through the build process. We basically tried to CAD model every single part of the Minijet CUB. And the advantage with that is there's a lot less hands-on fabrication time that you may experience if you're doing this build yourself. We've got our Spark specific engine mounts here. These guys just bolt right up to the engine. They'll drop right in on the stringers and you slide your engine around to get it fit perfect. And then you just weld them in. It's really simple. These guys are a cross brace that has an integrated holder for your sand trap, as well as this bracket that holds the Spark cooling bottle and your intake, your air intake. We've also got our Spark electronics mount here that's vibration damped and has a lot of like really cool features to minimize wire chafing and stuff like that. Yeah, we've also tube lasered. This is a pretty standard thing. We tube laser a lot of the engine cover structure. So you can see this is all cut for us already. Already has all the bolt holes, all the access holes. These are the things that really cut time down, they cut costs down, allow us to produce your boat faster, allow us to be more consistent. And yeah, if you like what you see, there's no reason we can't sell you some of this stuff for your own boat. So some of the other details that we do to save costs are extreme handling care with all of these metal surfaces. So you'll notice that we've placed a bunch of paper to keep everything scratch free. The less sanding that we have to do to remove blemishes, the more time that we save, the less labor and the less money that you pay for the boat in the end. Yeah, the next step for us here is going to be stashing these guys away out of the elements. Keep them nice and safe so we preserve that really good finish. And yeah, the next time you'll see these parts, they'll be getting dragged into the shop and put together into a boat. So yeah, see you then. All right, so welcome to the Minijet shop. We are here getting ready to assemble our CUB project. So I've got Ben here with me. He's the lead fabricator in the shop, so he's gonna walk us through how we're gonna get everything done for this guy. So I'm going to pass it off to Ben and we'll go through the steps that we need to start assembling this boat.
All right, our first step here is to remove the bend markers on these corners here.
All right, so we've got the rear fascia next to the swim deck here. So this is kind of dry fitted how Ben would like it. So I guess what are we looking for when we're doing this?
Yeah, so right here we want to have an open corner so that your weld can sit right in there. You can see the edge of each piece. And then it needs to be centered, so flush on the ends or equal amounts sticking out.
So I guess we'll get this tacked up first, make sure everything kind of fits how we like it. And then after that, are we finished welding this or just keeping it tacked for now?
This edge will just be tacked for right now.
Okay. I guess for those of you who are curious, Here's the settings on our Millermatic 350p machine. And what wire are we running?
It's an ESAB 5356 in a 3/64 diameter.
Okay, perfect.
All right, we got gloves, helmet, safety glasses. Then we're going to tack right in these corners first. Hold it centered. Then we'll add 2 more tacks in the middle. So then to maintain the fit up, it's easier to work from the middle to the outside, so then you have this control. So, and so the width is set by this piece, so we can tack the back first. And make sure that it's tight in this bottom corner. So now the bottom is easy to set, and then the top can still parallelogram a little bit. So we're going to grab a square and make sure that these sides are square to this edge. So we can see that it needs, as it sits, there's a small gap that just needs to be corrected by pushing that over slightly. So what I'm going to do is mark that position and then double check the other side. Now we're gonna add some more tacks along this seam on the inside. We want to make sure that the swim deck is tight up against the cubby. So you can just apply a bit of pressure and tack.
So what's the next step now?
So moving on to these back panels. So they fit like this, and depending where you've tacked it here, you may have to either round this corner or just grind the tack slightly, which is what we will do. But it's good to check and see how much you need to grind. Yeah, the critical part is that this bend is coming out, because you could accidentally weld it wrong on the other side. Watch that one. So the bumper is made of a thicker material, so it's a little bit harder to bend. So I like to tack to it first. We'll start in this corner, tack along this edge, and then up here, the cubby is still flexible enough that it's easier to manipulate and bring the joint to the position we want. So we'll start in this corner. Get a close look. So we want, again, open corner, but it's at more of a 45 degree. All right, again, tack every 4 inches here.
And so like Ben mentioned, we're tacking our way out to the edge of the panel instead of, doing one there, and then in the middle, so that if we have any distortion, it's easy to kind of control that as we're working our way out, and we can bend the panels as we need to.
Yeah. And we're just going to clean up these messy tacks.
There we go. And so you're using a sanding disc on that guy to get all this done?
This is just, aluminum oxide flap disc. 40 grit. Yeah, so we're gonna start to bring this joint together now.
And so this, I guess, is more of a butt joint, or are we still aiming for a open corner towards the end there?
Yeah, you do want an open corner if you can.
Okay. So as you can kind of see there, Ben's actually using his body weight and kind of hugging the panels together to make sure that he can close that gap towards the top.
Yeah, our last one's a little too far open, so the tack's still hot. We can just hammer it shut. Oh, go, tighten it up. Alright, we'll do the same thing on this side. Yeah, so that's the transom assembly fully tacked together.
Sweet. Okay. Now I guess the next step, are we going to finish weld any of this?
Yeah, so we're going to go in and MIG weld all the welds that are on the inside.
Okay.
And then once that's done, we'll come on the outside and clean these tacks off a little bit, and then we'll TIG weld the outside.
Okay. So yeah, since this is a CUB, we're going to go for that really nice TIG welded appearance. So I think otherwise, do we usually MIG these and then grind them off? Or?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, so MIG welding and then grinding is more time consuming than TIG welding. Yeah, so it just depends how much, what the finish level you want is.
But, like you mentioned, everything is going to be double pass welded, so we're doing a pass on the inside with the MIG, and then the exposed stuff is getting TIGged on the outside.
Yeah, so it'll be double welded everywhere.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get to blasting the inside then, and yeah. Ben just blasted out all the MIG welds on the inside of our transom here. And like before, we'll clean up the welds, make sure they look good. Didn't miss any spots, have any pinholes. So like I said, we recommend that you MIG weld the inside. It's a lot faster. MIG will save you a lot of time over TIG when you don't have to grind. But when it's an exposed edge and you have to grind it, it takes a little bit more time than if you're very good at TIG. So we're gonna do a double pass weld. So we're gonna go on the outside now and cut that open, make sure they're nice and clean for us to pass back over with the TIG. All right, so just setting up the TIG welder here. What are we using to get this done?
All right, so we are going to run AC, obviously, for aluminum. And we're going to turn it up to, once it turns on, 200 amps should be plenty. And then we're running a 1/8 filler material on, that's all sheet metal, so it's 5000 series, so we're going to run a 4043 alloy on the filler rod.
All right, so we've got the bottom here. We've just put it on a cart now, so it's easier to move around. And after the next few steps, it's gonna start getting quite heavy. So in order to kind of start manipulating the bottom into shape, basically the goal is going to be to try and pull those two tabs at the very front as close together as possible, and then weld all the way up the seam there. So to start this, Ben's got some clamps that he's just putting on the side here, and then he's going to attach the come along onto them and basically start pulling them together. And by doing that, you're going to close that gap in the middle. Adjust it to get that perfect. Another thing is to bend tabs here to remove on this piece before we weld that in. We're going to run the weld that goes underneath the mini bulkhead, so we've set the angle already with the chain, just to make a nice solid weld underneath this part. We'll do that first and then drop this on to lock the dead rise angle in place. All right, there we go. So that's our under mini bulkhead bead there. So that's already kind of started to lock the angle in. Then we'll throw the mini bulkhead on. That's really going to lock the angle in. And then we can bring those two front tips close together and really weld that whole bottom seam. Yeah. So we'll tack this on those reference points first. Once it's tacked, it's a good idea to at least eyeball it and make sure that it's sitting straight up and down. Looks pretty good. Yeah, we'll add a couple more tacks. And then we'll weld that on. And so I guess we've changed the settings a little bit since we were welding 8th before. Same wire and everything, but here's our wire speed. We've stepped that up quite a bit because we're welding into the 1/4 inch bottom. So again, clean everything off so it looks nice. Inspect your weld, make sure it looks good. We're looking pretty freaking solid there. Now we can bring the come along tighter. And it helps to have some support up at the front to apply a bit of pressure. So that combined with your body weight, a couple more cranks here. Sometimes you have to do this, sometimes you don't, but it's come together further up. But I need it to come together here. So what we're gonna do is put a bar underneath and then clamp that to the two sides to apply some pressure to this joint from the bottom. Okay, so there you go. We've got another set of clamps right in front of our come along, and Ben's put a bar underneath there. So we're basically applying pressure upwards between these two at that joint, and that way further back where the come along is we can pinch it a bit better, and then we're going to gradually basically run our weld all the way up so we can kind of tweak the material here and there to just make sure that the place that we're welding always looks perfect. All right, so as we're coming up to the front here, we've got a little bit more material left to weld up. Now, one thing is we've got these tiny little marks here that basically set the alignment of the front. So you have these nice tabs that can pinch together, but once the weld's up through there, you've got to cut them off to be flush and continue basically the point of the bow. So best if you kind of trim those off now and then do a Sharpie mark right from the middle of that semicircle back to here on the underside, and that way I'll know where to trim after that's all welded through. Okay, we have this weld now that is on the bottom, running all the way from that little point all the way up to the tip there and onto these little tabs, which we'll cut off later. Now that goes under the mini bulkhead, and if you remember, we welded the mini bulkhead as one of the first things to set the dead rise angle of the bottom before we welded the rest of that up. That was all welded in 1 foot increments, and we progressively just moved the come along further and further forward. So the next order of business is putting the transom that we welded earlier onto the back of the bottom. All right, guys, well, that's where we're gonna wrap it up for today. I actually forgot to film an outro for this video, so I'm here in the shop 2 days after filming the transom assembly portion of this video. And if you look behind me, you can actually see the boat that we're working on. In 2 days, we've made quite a bit of progress, so I'm not gonna spoil that right now for you guys. But if you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like on it. Make sure you're subscribed to the Minijet YouTube channel. And drop a comment. Let us know what you think of this build. I'm sure since you guys know that it's a CUB, you know what engine is going in it. But let us know if you'd like to see anything else on the YouTube channel. More builds like this, other videos, stuff around the shop. Yeah, hope you guys like this one. Thanks for sticking around, and we'll see you next time.